Hi everyone. I'm waiting for Janine to join. Uh,
Hi.
hi. Hi Janine, good to see you.
Good evening. Hello.
Good
Well,
evening. Hi.
I'm nerve-sighted, so it's like nervous and excited all mixed together. This is my
That's
first
good.
live. Well, I had a bit of a test version of live, but it's just playing at it. So, but I'm really excited
Yeah.
you invited me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for accepting. It's a pleasure. Yeah, and I hope it will go great. Yeah. So I see people are joining. And
Hi, Layla.
yeah, if you can see in the comments. Hello.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hi everyone. So I will close the chat box. Um,
Okay.
I can close it or I can keep it open. How would you prefer? If I
Um,
close it, I think people can see you better. But
okay, yeah, maybe do
yeah,
that.
yeah. Elsie, Sally is here. Hi, Sally.
Hiya, hello, good evening
Yeah.
from yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. That's better.
I
Yeah,
turned off the commenting, but yeah, I will open it at the end of the session. So if there's a question or any comment, people
yeah.
can add it in the question box. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Lovely,
Okay. So let's start. Uh,
lovely.
yeah. Janine, so would you just say a little bit about your background and your practice? Maybe a little bit of background with TA and with trauma training and everything.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
just to get to know you better. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I'm based in Nottingham. So born and bred in Nottingham, and this is where I did my training with the Burn Institute. And I've been practicing for 18 years, mainly individuals and groups. I do see a few couples, but not many. Like I say, mainly groups and individuals. But I'm a provisional trainer and supervisor in TA and psychotherapy. So I offer supervision and training too. And yeah, my specialism is in trauma, and particularly around complex trauma. I work with a lot of people with CPTSD and PTSD as well, mainly CPTSD.
Hmm.
I'm also an EMDR practitioner too,
Yeah.
and I see that there's quite a lot of overlap with EMDR and TA as well. So it's really nice to kind of have them both as a resource for my
Yeah.
clients. Yeah.
Yeah. And these are the things that I'm going to ask you.
Ah,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, that's
So how you combine it all together and how do they relate really? Yeah.
okay. Okay. So that's your question, how they relate.
Yeah, but first I want to ask you about trauma in general. How, what does it mean? How do you define it? What is the picture in your mind or the definition when you're working in your practice really with clients? Yeah.
Yeah. So in the I kind of link it back to the Greek word of wound and trauma. So I think
Right.
about how people have been wounded, usually with CPTSD, which is a enduring circumstances of trauma. So long-term traumatization usually relates to what has been experienced relationally. So I think about the wounds in terms of how what's happened in relationship with their parents or siblings or caregivers, and how this impacts on the person's development of themselves, and how then they interact with themselves, others, and
Yeah.
the world. So that's where script kind of comes into this. Those belief systems that are created through these experiences of being wounded. And a lot of the work that I do really links into the body. So quite a lot of body work,
Right.
which is where EMDR is really helpful with that. But in terms of the work that I specifically do is relational and supporting the client to really get in touch with their resources. You know, how they've survived what they've been through, and wanting them to really acknowledge that the resilience, you know, that word resilience is bandied out around quite a bit, isn't it? Something around resilience can be used as I think about, you know, with traumatization, there's a gap here where resilience is not helpful. So in terms of that, people put up with stuff that they shouldn't have to, or are discounting things that are impacting on them because of the traumatization that they've been through. Below this kind of level, there's a lot of resource there. There's a lot that's them to stay safe and stay alive, really, a lot of the time. So that what Eric Berne talks about around life force and the Physis of the individual is impacted upon around traumatization, but to really get to the grips of the spirit of the person and their survival techniques will then enable them to help them to grow those, and then be able to take on more resource. So educating our clients is really important. It's not about us having a toolbox and not sharing it with our clients. It's about sharing that.
Yeah, so I think you already defined the process of treatment actually beautifully. So it's a way of activating their resources to build that resilience that is injured maybe by the trauma.
So it's really connecting into what has helped you to survive all of what you've been through, in particular with CPTSD. This is what we talk about marinated into trauma. So in terms of, this is through and through the person, and it's about, you've been able to survive what you've been through, and let's help you to thrive next. What is it you that's the pure part of you that is lovable, that is innocent and vulnerable? What does that part of you need to be able to grow and develop? And that held within the therapeutic relationship, so important, about trust.
So it's really connecting with that energy that's been hidden in that part of them that wants to grow and wants to develop.
So I've been talking about a concept which is, I'll just draw quickly. Now I saw that not to draw the PAC because it goes back to front. So this is the picture of please stroke me was Ash. I didn't even say it wrong out, that was good. So the life is this aspirational arrow which you see with Eric Berne.
The Physis.
Beyond. And I've been talking about the perspective of traumatization and the impact on this aspirational arrow becoming back. So the energy flow gets stuck or disjointed. Another way that we could talk about this is Eric Berne's fantastic analogy of those stacked pennies. You know, if we think of
bent pennies. The
what did I say? Did I say bent pennies? Oh, anyway, bent pennies.
I think so. Bent pennies.
Of how trauma can cause misalignment of energy, and so it's about going back to the core part of the person and their life force and that purity to support them to really get into what is the core of self, Yeah, so Mary Cox
Yeah.
talks about core self, and that being the pure part. So this aspirational arrow, to get that energy flow going again, there needs to be a nurture and support and kind of shrugging off and letting go of all these negative beliefs that can come about through traumatization.
Yeah. Yeah. And and I know somebody asked about transgenerational trauma, and and what you draw on now reminds me of how it can be linked to that, and how this energy is actually starting behind that child ego state,
Yeah,
and goes further and afterwards and into
oh,
next generations.
quite exactly. So that the traumatization that's not being worked through, attended to, um, is passed down generationally. And Benita
Yeah.
English's work on the hot potato is a really good resource with that. And Bert Hellinger's work around family systems is something that I'm really
Yeah.
passionate about too, and family constellation work, which was originated with a conversation with Eric Berne. So
Mm.
it's something really important that the origins of constellation work with Bert Hellinger was through a conversation with Eric. I've got that quote
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
prompt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I remember it. I think you shared it with us in the
yeah,
course. Yeah.
I was like, it was amazing to see it. I was like, goodness me, that's incredible. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, intergenerational trauma is, I see that about the spirit of the person. So in terms of, again, life force, what is handed down, and we also talk about the DNA of the person gets transformed due to traumatization, and
Yeah.
working with clients that have experienced intergenerational traumas, um, and what this means to them to be holding this responsibility that's not theirs, and to hand it back to
Yeah.
the out is really important. Like, in many ways, the traumatization of any form is like, whose trauma is there? You know, I
Mm.
I've
Mm.
done two, for example. The traumas
Yeah.
happen to me, and yet this is not mine to hold. It's the actual person that traumatized me, or the event that happened, that the
Yeah.
responsibility go back to.
Yeah. Yeah. And how the life energy and the physis can be limited in some way even before birth, and the person is not even born.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And this is, in terms of protocol, script
Mm.
protocol. What then emerges from that, in the body, in the visceral holding of script,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
so many illnesses can become an expression of, traumatization.
Yeah, yeah. I think you already talked about the parts of the personality that we actually attend to in working with trauma. But I wanna ask you a more general question about how TA actually help you to have a different view, or how does this theory, all of it, contributes to this kind of job and helping people, and especially in terms of dissociation and its concept, which is really focused within the concept of ego states in TA.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. So I think, in terms of, I mean, transactional analysis has got a wealth of different options available to it, concepts, theories, and and the way that it can think about dissociation. I refer to the ego state model, which is very complex when you come close to it.
Yeah.
Looks very easy, those three circles, but when you start to delve into it, it's very complex. So, and I relate to it in terms of dissociation being an exclusion of states, and how we can cut off parts of us. And in extreme examples, if the adult ego state is excluded, you're more likely to go into psychosis, which is an extreme level of dissociation. But there's different kind of elements of exclusion, and we can talk about this from a structural perspective. So the parent, adult, and child, and how we can cut off a sense of self, and then connecting with others. So when someone is dissociated in my practice, I'm aware that they are not available to me relationally. It's because of a visceral experience. It's not we can't have a conversation about, oh, what's that like, you know. I need to become more regulated, to be able to then talk to them in a perspective of what was the stimulation in that. And moving on from that is that stimulus and response that Eric Berne talked about. And that stimulus and response from an ego state perspective can be intrapsychic, so within the person, or with a person, so interpersonal, or with the world, so, you know, environment. So in a stimulus and response perspective, this could also be referred to as a trigger for dissociation. So in any of the forms of, whether it's within themselves, with another, or the environment, it can be a trigger towards dissociation, so exclusion of ego state.
And so you really attend to all aspects of it in the therapy to connect with the parts that are excluded and dissociated, and how you can associate those again, coming to the here and now. And
exactly, and the exclusion can be talked about in terms of the exclusion of, for example, the child ego state perspective. It may be that the inclusion, so instead of exclusion, would be that actually you're then left with the introjected abuser. So into the work that I'll be doing from the perspective of introjects, of who is in the room with me, who am I actually working with the trauma for and with, and supporting the client to be able to recognize and understand those visceral cues that allows them to know how, you know, when there's shift in ego states.
And you're talking about introjection, and it reminded me of something very I think it was at least important to me, that I learned from you. And it was about contracting, and the first time you meet the client, and how you're welcoming all of the parts that are probably introjected. You're even welcoming all the generations behind the person. And the idea is not to persecute the abuser that is probably introjected, but to attend to this, and to respect it, actually, in a way, to welcome it in the
and to offer, you know, compassion, and to want to understand, because what we need to recognize is that in terms of, particularly with CPTSD and someone that's been sexually abused, there's a trauma bond, there's love that's been traumatized, And if I, as a therapist, start to say this part of you is not okay,
Yeah.
then what I'm saying is that the client's not okay.
Yeah.
Because it's part of them. So what I need to do is honor and respect, whilst recognizing that the behaviors, for example, the introjection abusers, not okay, and to really define that with the client about, you know, this person, you know, is been an important part of your life, you know, and the parts that have been helpful and sometimes defined as love. It may be the only loving relationship they've experienced. It's very
Yeah.
sensitive, and you know, to walk that line of supporting the client to be able to decontaminate for themselves, you know, to recognize actually, yeah, that's not okay. Those light bulb moments that we have with our clients.
Yeah, yeah, and especially I'm thinking how difficult it is actually to make that safety and help them gain that safety again because traumatized people actually try to start to being persecuted themselves,
Oh
and they
yeah,
interject the abuser, and it happens again and again. So
the
a
impasse.
part of it is attending to the dynamic that's happening inside the person and how they are becoming critical to themselves
Those
and to
beliefs.
that part, yeah,
Sorry, Ash.
to that part, I said, yeah.
Yeah, that part of them. And what happens is over time is that the power or the influence on the of the introduced abuser becomes less, and they're more likely to be able to connect with what is supportive, which could
Yeah.
include objective therapists. Yeah,
Mm, mm,
and this
mm.
thing that I'm also working around an impasse that is created within the parent ego state, that is the impasse between the abuser and the therapist, and
All
how
right.
the child part of the so this is intrapsychic, so within the person, so the child part of the person's looking up to this argument that's happening between the therapist and
Right.
the abuser, for example, because the abuser will want to disempower and say she's not to be trusted, he's not to be trusted, they're not to be trusted.
Yeah, yeah, and then the therapist would feel a lot of counter-transferential feelings towards that part, and
Exactly, yeah. And that's really a really important aspect that can often in those times cause therapists to feel that imposter syndrome of
mm,
not doing a very good job,
yeah,
going to do more training, read more books, or going to a different job. What am I doing this for? Who do I think I am? You know, and this is where supervision is really important, to get that support of what is the countertransference, what is it that you're holding for the client that can be processed.
yeah, 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 yeah. So that's when supervision becomes necessary actually towards
Yeah,
this job.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So I know how you emphasized on safety contracting, and
Yeah.
contracting is a concept that's coming within TA. So maybe you can talk about it a little more. How is it necessary? And you can maybe talk about your article about escape hatches. Yeah, and different ways to close them.
There it is. Okay. So, in terms of, I guess with the contracting we need to have contact before we have contract. You know, with
Right.
any therapy work. But once we have established the therapeutic working alliance, we can then move on to be contracting. And sometimes, you know, it can be about risk. you know, suicide or self-harm or risk to another, or, you know, go for the third one, go crazy with the escape hatches. So in relation to safety, obviously that is our important ethical framework for us to keep our clients safe and support them to keep themselves safe too. But fundamentally, we have to honor that if the client decides to end their lives, that is either a decision or they've got really, really ill, become psychotic. So there's a level of disempowerment that we need to hold in that position as a therapist, to accept the limitations of as a therapist in relation to suicide. But when I'm talking about contracting for health, in my article, it's about recognizing those steps towards those three positions of kill and harm self, or get another to kill them, or kill and harm others, or get another, or crazy. So recognizing the steps supports the recognition of I'm already on the way to, you know, ending my life in one of these three forms. So contracting with the client so that they'll keep themselves safe, to be explicit with that. So are you willing to keep yourself safe until the next time we meet? Now that's really important that you say that, rather than until next week, because you don't know whether you're going to be poorly or they are. Like if you got ill, or it needs to be the next time we meet, because there can be a tricksiness in terms, you know, those back doors that get found by the little professor. Well, she didn't say that. So yeah, contracting for safety is really important with working with trauma, and that also to us too, about if we're working with a particular client that's deeply traumatized, we need to be contracting for more supervision. So the contract is both going up towards the supervisor and flowing down into the therapeutic relationship.
Yeah, and I see it as kind of first supporting your own safety and supporting around work, actually, then to help the client support their safety. So it's like hierarchical. We are doing that. Yeah.
You're modeling, even though it's not explicit, a lot of what we are working with is implicit. So, you know, the unconscious or ulterior transactions that, you know, you're holding. I've got supervision tomorrow about this client. Take that to Enid, or, you know, I'm going to speak about this part. So you're constantly clocking whilst you're with your clients to, what is it I need support with? What is it that I need to help me to feel safe?
Yeah. Thank you, Janine. It was so great already. We had 13 minutes of our talks. Yeah, so we are in halfway.
We're doing well.
I wanna. Yeah. I think we talked about lots of TA concepts already, and I'm hoping that we can have some other talks that we talk about these concepts in more details. Yeah, and how they're actually putting them into practice in working with trauma. But now I want to ask you about your trauma course and how you choose to design it, because it was a really great experience for me. It was full of exercises, full of reflection, and it was really experiential. So a part of it was to actually experience and feel in the embodiment of the presence in that workshop, feel what your client might feel, and reflect on how you might respond to your client afterwards when you're working with them. So yeah, I want to ask you how you chose those concepts. Some of it was TA, some of it was outside TA. Yeah, can you give us a little bit detail about that? And
so I decided to, well, the first session is around grouping, safety, and contracting, which kind of links to what you've been saying. So because it's an experiential course, like you just said, Ash, and to be able to enable the group to feel that they can talk openly, there needs to be the recognition that this is a safe place to do that. And I offer, you know, my own vulnerabilities in the, you know, for example, me being dyslexic and having ADHD, there's that sense of we can be true here and reflective, and that's where you're going to get the most from the course. And what happens, it's offering that container, which is parallel process, contact.
Yeah, so these relational principles are actually in the training. It's a way of two-person work, and you a lot of self-disclosure in that, talking about yourself. And I think the most important job that you did was creating that safety and safe environment in the training. And most of it is implicit, on an implicit level. You're connecting with people. Yeah.
So that is the first, you know, that's the hello to the course, really, which is really important, which is the parallel process of hello with the client. And then I move into Dan Siegel's Wheel of Awareness, and I use each of the Wheel of Awareness to be able to kind of bring, well, not kind of, to bring to life what is actually experienced in the therapy space, and how to give resources to you as the practitioner to be able to then to connect with you and what you're, for example, talk about the senses.
First 5 senses,
Yeah. And there's experiential exercises around those for you to be able to then, once you've embodied that and you know the answers to the questions that are posed and really connected into you, then you're able to congruently offer this as a resource to your clients. Because if you don't walk your talk, clients know. You know, they pick it up, you know, the ulteriors, like I said, or, you know, that you're not doing it yourself, why would I do it? You know, and it's not going to land on them as well. It's like Dan Siegel's Wheel of Awareness, and I've used TA concept within that, you know, to bring it to life too. Then we moved on to the discriminatory traumas, which is really important in terms of how we can work with and be connected with social justice, and the ways in which we could be discounting things in the therapy space with our clients, and how more attuned and aware of those issues.
So discrimination is actually being experiencing that is a kind of exclusion and dissociating a part of you that is not accepted. A lot of shame that's connected with it, and to it.
Yeah, damaging and you know, deeply impactful, and can be in the transference reinforced in the relationship. And so the more awareness that we have, and are able to attend to this with our clients, and the more readily the healing will happen. So,
Yeah.
you know, really, you know, that particular module, Dr. Dwight Turner and I did an interview, and we went through another experiential exercise together. So following that, the rest of the weeks is on developmental traumas, where I use the norms model, so neuroaffective relationship model. That was good, wasn't it? And working through that as a treatment plan to support clients with CPTSD in particular. And I use a example and my own experiences to support and demonstrate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was again very experiential to be actually step by step experiencing those levels of the treatment model and see how you might act in that kind of situations and how
Yeah.
you might experience some feelings in transferentially. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's talk about, you know, attachment and transference, you know, being the bread and butter of psychotherapy, and traumatization being so key to our work as therapists and counselors. So yeah.
Yeah. And when is your next course? Are you starting a new one?
Okay, yeah. So my certificate course is starting on the 7th of February. And then I've got a complex trauma course, which is the follow-on course to the certificate. So you handed the certificate to be able to move on to the next one, and that's in May. I've actually uploaded a few dates on Becoming Ubuntu's Eventbrite page
Oh,
yesterday.
you didn't talk about becoming Ubuntu.
Oh yeah. Ubuntu. So it's my training, therapy training organization. So it's just over a year old. So
Yeah.
I had some cake for the birthday. So becoming, we're always and changing and growing. And then Ubuntu, I am because we are, which is a beautiful Zulu word. And yeah, so I offer lots of different opportunities in TA, and that's going to expand over the years. I wish I could be cloned, Ash. You know, it'd be nice to have a few of me. I think I want to do. You know, I'm eager to do lots of different things, and there's only so much time.
Yeah. And especially now that you want to spread it more internationally, do you
Yeah,
want to talk about it and how you want to actually make it accessible?
yeah, exactly. So I
Yeah.
wanted, yeah, I recognize that, you know, from the perspective of finance, it's very different in different countries about what £445 means in
Yeah.
trans, you know, and it's really important to me, again, as embodying social justice, that I have accessible people across the world. So, for example, you coming on the course was great, and I think that
Thank you.
you know you've supported me in understanding a lot more around what actually needs to happen for more international training. I'm really passionate about making this happen. And so if people are interested in coming on the course, I also recognise about times as well. But I'm actually going to, in terms of what time it is when I do the courses, but I'm actually offering the certificate and the complex trauma course over 4 days. So work out wise better. So I'm available for people to contact me. I've created a small bursary fund myself through
Yeah,
community, if people in the UK are wanting to attend that need support as well. So yeah,
it
if
will be
people
great. Yeah,
really get in contact with me, I'm open to that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That will be great. Yeah. So I think we're almost in the end of what we wanted to talk about for this session. I will open the comments now.
Oh,
So if people have any comments or questions now, they can ask really. Yeah,
we're starting to follow.
to get
Or is it you? Okay. So, anyone got
get some
to
feedbacks. Yeah.
ask? I very much welcome questions or thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. And hopefully we can have some other talks afterwards and in the
Yeah,
next weeks. And
yeah,
yeah, so this session will be saved on my page and I will put it on YouTube probably. So if people have any comments or question afterwards, I will
oh,
suggest that they put it for us in the comments.
yeah.
Yeah,
Always becoming, Ash. Always becoming.
yeah,
So yeah. So I mean, I've got lots to talk about. I mean, in terms of us looking at the TA 101 syllabus as a kind of framework, and gosh, it's so much that we can talk about, Ash.
yeah.
Have like one every day of the year, I think.
Right, yeah, yeah, lots and lots of things. And yeah, with lots of details, especially every TA concept has lots of models and to explore and in different situations with different people.
So many different things. There's lots of lovely strokes. Thank you so much. That's lovely. Ashley, you seeing your strokes as well?
I do, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, thank to everyone who joined and with us and
you know what?
supported it.
Yeah, it's great. Hi, Max. Hello. Hi, Sally. Oh, thank you. So,
Yeah, so
like I say, please do contact me if you want to come and you're not in the UK and want some support. I'm very much excited about that. And oh, hello,
thank you. Yeah.
Trauma.
Yeah, I think there's question. If you can explore more what you mentioned earlier about trauma happened to me, but it's not
Mind.
mine to hold.
Yeah,
I think it was about intergenerational
yeah.
aspect of trauma.
So it's I think it's about in relation to, cause what happens is beliefs can, like, say, because it's Alex, isn't it, that's asking the question. When traumatization happens, belief systems can, you can turn things onto yourself, like it's my fault, it's my doing, you know, I shouldn't have been there, or whatever the belief is. And actually the responsibility becomes internalized, and that's not yours to hold. The responsibility in
Yeah.
particular, not for you to hold. What has happened to you is for the other person to hold. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm. So, does that answer your question? I don't know if
I think it does, but let's wait for the comment.
yeah.
So let me see if there is another comment. Thank you both for talking and informing us about trauma from a scientific perspective. Can't wait for the next sessions. Thank
Oh,
you.
that's great. Yeah.
Great talk. Yeah.
You. Hopefully, Alex is. Oh, great, lovely. That's
Yeah.
good. Okay,
Yeah.
so the response is about the responsibility, and how that can be held as a way to have that critical dialogue that can go on inside intrapsychically. So yeah, so it's, but yeah, I think there is so much we can talk about. I do like Eric Berne's model of stimulus and response. I think we could break that down into psychic, interpersonal, and environmental in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That would be
Mm-hmm.
interesting. But it'd be good if people have got something that they want me to focus on, just to put in the comments. Thank you. And we'll attend to them. It'll be good. And
Yeah, it
maybe,
would be great to have some feedbacks and comments to see
yeah,
what we focus on our next talks. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
Okay.
there are lots and lots of concepts, and it's difficult to choose.
Oh yeah. You said,
Sally's think Physis isn't talked about enough. Great to link it to trauma.
yeah, it's important. Thank you, Sally. Yeah, getting hold of that life force in us and the
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm not sure whether I'm gonna yet because I'm not found out. But I have put forward a workshop for the Yukata conference on about script backlash. So I don't got through, but if I don't get through, like if I don't get accepted, I'm going to offer it as a workshop anyway. So
Oh,
either be at the Yukata conference or definitely somewhere else. So yeah.
yeah. Uh, I am wondering about the impasse between the abuser and therapist. I wasn't aware an impasse could happen between two people. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is a concept that I've been talking to Tony White about. I had a bit of supervision. I says, Tony, has this been, written about? Has the Goldings got it somewhere in their archive? And I've just thought about this, and it's, not a thing. Because what happened is that a few of my clients have said to me that their abusers, like saying that I'm basically not to be trusted, like I say, or that they're feeling gaslighted by me, by naming
Uh-huh.
process. So the actual experience of the introjects is what I'm talking about within the parent ego state of the client. So this is something that I'm going to be writing about, so keep an eye out.
So it's not really so it's not really interpersonal between people, but it is between the introjected good object, which is the
Yeah,
therapist, and that abuser.
yeah, yeah, and
Okay.
there's the complexity in that too, isn't there, in terms of the good and bad split, and there's
Correct.
different aspects to attend to. Um, thank you, Abby. So yeah, I think it is the intra psychic, so within the person, the
Mm-hmm.
so it's not between the therapist, and hopefully that helps.
Yeah,
Does it help clear things up? I should
I
have
hope
gone.
so. Yeah, it's so fascinating. Yeah, it is.
That's lovely, and I'd like to talk a bit about frame of reference, Ash, and about frame of reference around, particularly about safe
Yes, please do.
trauma
Yeah.
frame of reference. And I did a what's it called? Clubhouse talk. My first
Yeah. Yeah.
on traumatized love. And that might be a subject that people would be interested in too, and how that's impacted, and
Yeah.
therapy room as well, and what gets stimulated.
Yeah, that reminds me of a session we had on love and sexuality
Yeah, exactly.
on the norms model.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's, let me just a second. Right, have a look. So
That is when TA gets complicated.
I know three circles are epic, right?
Right, yeah. Between P3 and P1. It
So
can be P0 and P minus.
trying to think about how to draw it really, because this is a complicated bit. So it's kind of like this. So this is a therapist, and this is the, we'll just call it abuse for argument's sake. So it's like that, abs. So that's the parent, adult, and child. But this is the impasse. Does that
Yeah,
make? So it's not
beautiful.
there to there, because that's the. It's actually from one part of the introject to the other. Does that help? Hopefully. So, does anyone else have any questions, I guess? Getting chilly here in Nottingham.
I will write a note about that traumatized love and frame of reference you just mentioned. I think that would be a great subject and so useful for people.
Yeah. And vicarious trauma, which we talk about in the training as well. And the importance around safety, like we said earlier, around the therapist, and therefore ethically the do no harm aspect. If you're supported and not traumatized yourself, you know, it's what is it that you need, and that probably will mean that you're in therapy. It's not just 40 hours. It's like the dog's not just for Christmas, guys. You know, you go, you're working with complex trauma. You accept that you will need to be having support in that sense. I personally, sorry, I need to start reading that. Have an EMDR therapist for like there's a lot. It's not recorded, but I will talk about it with Ash. We'll do a session on it, on
That will
traumatized.
be great. I'm so excited for that. Yeah, I hope we do. Yeah.
Be good. Yeah. And maybe we could create some new concepts together.
Why not?
Well,
Yeah. So, but we talked about vicarious trauma. I think also one of the other important parts of the course was about therapist burnout. I think we
yes.
had it in our last session, and how we can actually after a while feel like I think you said going into water and not getting wet.
Yeah. How can you go into water and not think you're going to get wet? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a quote.
So
Yeah.
I
And
think that can be also another subject.
yeah.
Very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Very important aspect of our work. So yeah, it'll be good to hear if anyone is interested in anything particular. What else? And I have been writing some training on working with groups that are traumatized and the impact of working with therapy groups in particular, and traumatization, for example, the splitting of the group, the different transferences that happen, and how to deal with that. So that may be something that we can touch on as well.
Yeah. So with the group, how this can actually be, I think, more complex within the group imago, and how the projections is different.
Yeah, and the family, you know, system being reenacted, the different energy flows, and you know, if you think about from the perspective of you know, how many chairs are in the space. You know, you talked earlier
Yeah.
about intergenerational aspects of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, got a full room.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Groups. Yeah.
Are you offering now some group therapy in your practice? I think
Do I offer it?
with, yeah.
Yeah. I've been offering that for about 15 years. Yeah. So
Oh, wow.
a therapy group at the end of this month, actually, online. And it's a real passion of mine, a group therapy, but also group supervision. And the collective co-created experience of healing, and how it can be so supportive and powerful, so powerful. Yeah. So,
Yeah, so thank you, Jenny. Let's see if there
yeah.
isn't anything else. So we are almost at the end of 1 hour.
Wow, it's gone fast.
Yeah.
Gosh, I was so frightened before I came on. I was having to really regulate myself. I kept humming, "Are safe, you are safe." It's like, what is Instagram Live? I don't know, but really pleased that I did it.
Yeah, it's interesting you're mentioning that because I do also hum and a little sing before I want to have a live session to regulate myself. Yeah.
Good, good.
It's
Recommend
interesting, yeah.
cool, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So glad I did it. I nearly said, "Oh no, I can't do it. It's broke," but I did
I
it.
was sure it would be great. Yeah. So thank you again, Jenny. I really enjoyed the talk, and I'm looking forward to our next sessions and next topics we talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Ash.
Yeah, I hope that more people watch this afterwards and find
Yeah,
it useful. But
yeah,
yeah, and if you do, please leave us some feedbacks and comments so that we can plan better for our next
yeah,
meetings.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Oh, thanks. Lots of love to everyone. And
Yeah,
we'll be back. We'll
yeah,
be back.
for sure. Soon. Yeah. So
Thank
thank you, Janine. Have a nice evening. See you later. Yeah.
you. Yeah. Bye.
Thanks to everyone. Bye.